Right, so the sky's just full of energy, and glider pilots like Doug and I, we can fly hundreds of kilometres using it. And here you see one of nature's most energetic clouds. That's the cumulonimbus, or thundercloud, and it's sort of shaping up to be a good day, I think, Doug.
I think it is, John. Today we're using a winch with about a litre of fossil fuel. The big V8 engine winds a long, thin, strong cable, sending us into the air. With luck, it's high enough to contact lift, indicated by the clouds above the airfield.
So, this is one of our gliders, and they don't need much energy to remain airborne and fly. Long, skinny wings, as Russell mentioned, streamlined fuselage, sort of mimics nature's most efficient flying birds, like wandering albatross, or the kea, or falcon.
Winch, take up slack, then all out. The winch winds the cable in at about 100 kilometres an hour. It kites up quickly to about 500 metres and then releases overhead the winch. Now, the pilot has to find a few minutes to find some natural energy to go higher.
And that might be a low-level thermal, like this dust devil. So it's probably formed from the runway. It's sucked in a bit of dust from the airfield, and you can see the rising column of air. So we're going to circle round in that, hopefully get up extra high and head to the mountains.
Now, after climbing up high, where to next? Well, the Hunter Valley looks a good place to go to today. In the mountains, a similar process occurs. The sun warms the scree slopes, warming air rises on the ridge tops, forming higher thermal clouds that you can see there. Note how the clouds form following the natural energy lines of the mountains.
And yep, as you said, it's solar energy. You can see how the sun shines on that scree slope. It warms the air lower pressure rises, those little cumulus clouds there, and sometimes it sucks in this sort of denser cold air up the valley, a sort of like a sea breeze or a lake breeze, not good for gliding.
Now we can fly hundreds of kilometres using these lines of thermal energy. Here's a 440 kilometre flight out of Amarama and around central Otago. Notice how the path follows the natural energy lines of the Hawkden, Ida and Rock and Pillar ranges. There's long descending glides over Lakes Wanaka and Hawea.
So another form of energy is wave lift. So here the setting sun is still illuminating a high level lenticular cloud. It's formed in the lee of the Pisa Range, just to the left, and maybe the next day we'll follow that long line all the way maybe to Mount Cook.
Now this graphic shows the Pisa Range, if you like. The wind's blowing from left to right. It bounces back, forming a standing wave over about Lake Dunstan. The waves in the cloud are stationary, where B is indicated, but the wind blows through at 80 to 100 kilometres an hour.
Just occasionally, you can actually see the whole cycle of the energy. In this case, we've had bushfire smoke. It's come all the way from Australia, and it's just etching out that little cycle there. You've got the high lenticular on the right, and on the left-hand side, sort of rotor. It's a rough roll cloud that we don't really want.
Now today we're not using the winch, we're using a tow plane, an old top dresser, to get airborne. It climbs higher than the winch launch, and it can take us directly into the lift. In this case, the thermal energy in the mountains in the distance.
And uses a little bit more fuel. Okay, so we're up in the wave now, and I'm actually sandwiched between that rotor cloud and that high-level lenticular, and you can actually see that curve in the lenticular. We're sort of tracking north, probably 200 kilometres an hour, still climbing, and we're heading to Mount Cook.
Now, a wonderful Old Man Range produces wave most days of the year, especially in a westerly. And here the wind's blowing from left to right. The Old Man is just visible in the lower left. We're surfing a standing wave that forms over the highway in the Roxburgh Gorge. We can climb up high there before moving on to the Dunstan wave.
And here we are, the Dunstan wave. So this time we're actually looking south, so that's the Old Man in the distance. And it's a westerly, so the wind's blowing from the right. You've got that little roll cloud down below. And then there's that high level lenticular where the nice smooth lift is. That probably about 5 kilometres high, so they're very high lift.
Now, wave flying's done at high altitudes, above 3,000 metres or 10,000 feet. So here we need oxygen. We're in a Club 2-seater glider, our twin steer. The instructor's in the back, that's John waving, and a student in the front. And we're using nasal cannulas to supply us with supplementary oxygen.
So we've left the Dunstan wave and we're into the Mackenzie Basin, so we need another form of energy. And we're going to use the Ben O'Howe wave. So there's the Ben O'Howe range on the left. And just up on the right here you can see the lenticulars from that. Lake Pukak there, and of course, yeah, Mount Cook in the far distance.
Now getting to Mount Cook is a goal from us here at Alexandra. It's a good flight. It's getting closer. The Ben O'Howe wave system is one of the most energetic in the world. We've set many height records there. Even Steve Fossett flew there. Lake Tasman can just be seen up ahead and Mount Cook in the distance.
So finally on the summit of Mount Cook. So here I am, I'm sort of surfing the energy that's been blown up the south face there. The wind's from the lower right, and you can even see a bit of spindrift blowing off on the left there. Well, you got Lake Tasman and Lake Pukak in the distance.
Now after a long flight we can burn off altitude performing loops. Here we trade potential energy, height, for kinetic energy, speed, and then pull up and over in a positive G loop. What a great way to finish a wonderful flight.
So yeah, if you're interested, come on down. Got Will's in the audience. We're keen to introduce anyone else who wants to try gliding. You're most welcome. Alexandra Airport, most Sunday afternoons. Thank you.